So hi, I'm Liz. Most of you know me. If you don't, feel free to talk to me after the presentation. I have no clue what I'm doing up here, as with I have no clue why I ran off to another continent. So I'm just hoping this goes fine. So I went to Uganda first when my parents asked me, would you like to go to Uganda? And it was just out of nowhere. Just like one day they called me up, I came upstairs and we sat down on the couch and they were like, do you want to go to Uganda? And I'm like, is that a question? So somehow from there it all just randomly worked out, and my parents set it up, and boom, done, went to Uganda. So the first time I was there, it was mostly like seeing what the ministry that I was staying with does, Next Generation Ministries. I was there for 3 weeks from February and March. And I stayed with my cousin Rebecca. She's a full-born Ugandan. She's my adoptive cousin, and she runs Next Generation Ministries. While I was there, I got to see what they do for their work. And I got to see a bunch of touristy things as well. I went to Itanda Falls, which is like a giant rapids. We paid some people to go down the rapids, and somehow none of them died. Then we went to a bunch of schools, got to see what they do. Here are some of the students they sponsor. Here's one student who's getting a prosthetic leg because he had to have his leg amputated below the knee. Here's just what they do when you stop anywhere. They just stick food in your car, like, food, want some food? Anyone want food? This is what kids do when they see a white person or a Mzungu. And I got my hair braided. This is, we visited one of the widows that NGM sponsors, and this is them celebrating. She was getting to the end of her life, had moved away from the town, and that was probably her last time seeing all of her friends again. We also went to a Congolese church. I should have finished the words before starting.
Wow.
They move.
Then I didn't have a specific reason for going back. I was just kind of obsessed with Uganda, and I knew I needed to go back. So for my graduation gift, I asked people to donate to a mission trip to Uganda, and lo and behold, it happened again. So these are photos from leaving the airport and arriving in Entebbe. And our taxi driver found a way to film us without our noticing. That's me reuniting with Rebecca.
Wow.
Okay. The first thing we did was go to Bujiri. It's a town in eastern Uganda, a district in eastern Uganda. We went to Luero, and we went on medical mission. I did not know what I was doing there. I was supposed to write down people's names, but I did not know what any of their names were. And when I asked them, they were all so foreign to me, and I couldn't even hear them correctly in my ears. So everyone was just frustrated with me. But apparently afterwards, I found out that they were like, so the Mzungu, she actually put down my name. So
Figured it out.
that's at least something. Then after that, we, with some of the doctors, we went to schools and communities teaching about menstrual hygiene and how to create reusable sanitary pads. And as I got sunscreen in my eye, so I didn't want to be in the room and just like blinking and crying as everyone was teaching. So instead, somebody like had a baby, and I took it so that she could focus on what they were teaching instead of her fussy baby. And during all of that, I met some really good friends. I also got to witness a surgeon do a C-section. When they put the anesthesia into her back, I was good until then, and then I just felt like I was gonna faint, so I had to pass off the flashlight. And after that, I had to keep going in and out of the operating room because I did not want to just hit the floor. So watching, I can separate myself from the medical aspect of it, like it's almost intellectual, but seeing her trembling and hearing her pain during the anesthesia really got me. Then after I kept going in and out, then I saw the baby come out. The baby was gray. It hadn't taken a breath yet. They took care of it, cut the umbilical cord, and gave it to the midwife, and then they sewed her up. As they were sewing her up, I took a video while I was in the hall of what you could hear her saying. Jehovah, protect my son Elijah. And after that, they gave her her child, and they sewed her up, and out in the hall she was saying "Webale Katonda" over and over and over again, which means "Thank you, God, thank you, God." And apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently I tried speaking to her in Uganda. I probably was terrible, but I feel like when a Mzungu makes an effort to say something in Uganda, it's always taken pretty well because they can see what you're trying to do. after the surgery, the mom was bleeding pretty bad and had to have a blood transfusion, and the child needed oxygen, but after 24 hours, they stabilized.
Happy ending.
This one, I don't have any pictures for. I was having dinner with someone and my friend Joy, and the man we were having dinner with started looking off into space and not responding to questions. And then he went stiff as a board and fell sideways. I caught him, I laid him on the ground, and I started holding his head, just like, it's okay, I got you, it's okay. And people around us moved him away from anything in the way. A doctor came over, told us to lay him on his side, and he was seizing, like whole body seizing. Eventually, he stopped seizing, but he was still unconscious for a long while. And so we carried him out. And on the way to the hospital, we had to keep talking to him to make sure he stayed conscious and didn't pass out or anything. So it was just like, hey, I'm here with you, it's okay. Yesu akwagala, which is Jesus cares for you, Jesus loves you, and things like that. Just over and over and over again, saying his name, things like that. When we got him to the hospital, we had used a tourist's van, because they wanted to, because there were some tourists nearby that were able to help. The driver of the tourist van came up, and Joy was calling people, seeing if there was any history of seizures, and I was in the vehicle with him. I told the driver to get a stretcher. We wheeled it up. We couldn't get him on the stretcher, so another man came up and we lifted him together. Then we got him over the grate and into the hospital. In the hospital, there were beds just lined up of people in all different states, from mild to severe, and everyone seemed fine-ish at first. I mean, there was blood and gore, things like that, but nobody was like actively dying. So we were able to like get blood pressure taken, get vitals and such. And it turns out this man had a history of seizures and needed some medication changes, but he was going to be all right.
Scary.
In the hospital, everyone looked fine at first, but there was this one person that I thought was sleeping, that in between things that were going on with the man I was taking care of, I saw a series of images with that one patient. First, they were doing chest compressions. Then they pulled a sheet over the person and they rolled them out, rolled the bed back in like nothing had ever happened. That was my first time seeing death, but I wasn't worried about it because I was just worried about caring for this man who had a seizure right in front of me. Afterwards, I needed a couple of days to process, but the whole experience kind of made me different as a person. Like, I can't explain it, but something changed. When I had recovered from seeing from the whole seizure situation and seeing the person die, I found out that my Nana has ALS back in the States, and it was eventually going to kill her. We didn't know how long she had, and I was stuck in another country, not able to see her. She is still, she's still alive right now. She's in a nursing home, but it was really weird just being on the opposite side of the world and hearing about someone you love being going to a nursing home because they have a fatal condition. But then it's like time doesn't stop. Like you get bad news after bad news after bad news, and then just after I heard that my Nana had ALS, I found out that one of the widows that NGM was caring for had heart failure and was rushed to the hospital. So no time for worrying about that. We have to go to the hospital to check on this person. Later on, we got her to a heart clinic, and she's probably going to be nearing the end of her life as well. After that, we went on a medical mission to Gulu, which is in the north of Uganda. It took a really long day from before the sun came up to almost sunset to get there. There we did medical missions for 3 days. Day one, I was working, taking temperatures, and you'd think that wouldn't be a very exhausting task, but taking temperatures for hundreds of people for 8 hours is kind of a little exhausting in 90-degree heat. Then that night, we celebrated a birthday, and I saw them dump bottles of soda and tea and water all over the person, which is apparently common with people in boarding schools. I had not been exposed to that before, and I did not know that if it was somebody's birthday, I should probably keep a little far away until the pouring was done. Luckily, I didn't get any on myself, but I swear it was centimeters from me. Then everyone gave a speech for that person. And we danced and everything. Then day two, we had already run out of a lot of medications, and we were just making do. I learned how to take blood pressure very poorly. I did not get it as many times as I would have liked to, but here's me taking blood pressure and failing. Then and then we were rationing medications by the end of the day. I was in pharmacy. And these people couldn't get out to a hospital. That just wasn't the case for them, but we couldn't give them a full course of antibiotics, so we would just give them a few days worth and things like that. And especially with antibiotics, that's a problem because it causes resistance, but we had no other choice. By the end of the day, we got the news that somebody had donated $500 to the mission, which paid for that trip and a number of trips beyond that. And then day three, we were fully stocked on medications, and I was working in pharmacy this time. A little girl came up to me and just wanted to be by me, was standing by me, and I was like, hey, how are you? Hey, can you come with me? And then I held her hand and walked her back to her family, and I took care of them. Gave her a piece of candy and went back my way. I should not have given her a piece of candy because she just kept coming back for candy. And this was the first day. It was a photo of a child who, I don't actually remember what specifically she was going through, but she needed an IV, so they hung it on a tree.
Well,
Then I got to climb a waterfall. Yeah. So we were staying at a resort. We camped and I met a new friend. We had a long talk. And then the next day we set out for the waterfall. We got to climb up to the base of it and be in the water. And the whole time we were just crossing rivers, holding hands, just slowly like, ooh, my foot slipped, don't step here. And it was really convenient that I was white because everybody could see my foot in the water. And we also got to go swimming. I got to swim under a waterfall, so that was awesome. And the whole time it was just like, it kind of gave me just a feeling of strength and courage that I don't know if I've felt before. That was a really good memory. After the medical mission, we went on a few different things, teaching. I got to play with kids, and one last medical mission. For teaching, we taught about menstrual hygiene, how to take care of your body, things like that. This was in an elementary school. Rebecca said, "It's time for you to give a speech," and I'm like, "About what?" And she made me do the speech anyway, so I just kind of winged it, and I hoped that one person there related to it. That's kind of what I hope all the time. Like, I hope in this trip, I hope that I helped one person and maybe made them look at the world a different way. And during that speech, I hope I helped one person and gave them hope. After a whole bunch of praises and talking about Jesus and everything you should do, I made a speech like, I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm not going to try to convince you to follow Jesus or anything. But I'm not going to try to convince you because you know it's the right thing to do and that it's good for you. But right now, I know some of you, during all of that worship, were seeing everyone around you having fun, and it was just like a gray blanket was over your face. And I just want to say, even though I grew up in a first world country, I know what that's like, and it gets better. And you'll find someone who understands you eventually. And when you find that person, hold on to them and be grateful for them. Eventually, you'll be okay. And then I trailed off and somebody took over for me because I was just kind of like staring there. But yeah, that just kind of came out of my heart. I found since then a lot of things have been coming out of my heart that I couldn't have said on my own, like I couldn't replicate, that have just like touched people's lives, and I can't credit that to myself. I also got the chance to play with some kids after teaching about menstruation. They make this game look much easier than it is. They have like a long rubber band at like thigh level, and you're supposed to jump out and in, and it's just like I cannot get my legs that high.
Were they pretty good at it? Were they better at it?
You could see them just doing it like jump rope, like it was crazy.
Like it's easy. Chinese too.
And then I couldn't find a way to make this video go vertical. I mean horizontal, but this was chasing after me. Just hundreds and hundreds of kids chasing after me, gathering around me. We started dancing and singing, and I just danced in the middle, and they started cheering for me. And I offered my arms, like, hey, you can touch the white person's skin, it's fine. And so, like, 20 kids were grabbing onto my arms, and they started leading me away until they led me over a rock, and I tripped.
You fell on it.
Yep.
Did he fall down?
Yeah, I also got, like, really bruised, but it was fine. It was a bunch of kids.
Did they cut your hair?
Yes. Although not that time. They were respectful, but there was one time I was in an orphanage, and they started petting my hair, and so I squatted down to let them pet my hair, and one kid was just like whacking me on the head.
So soft.
Yeah.
And red. Not just like light, but like red.
Yeah.
Gingers.
Also, so I taught about like menstruation. Well, I was there when people taught. I didn't do most of the teaching. Then I made a speech to kids to hopefully give them hope. I got to play with kids, and then we did a medical mission in Busia. That's like the border between Kenya on the east to the east of Uganda and Uganda, and most of the people there are in what's called no man's land, and they don't have like a specific nationality. It's a confluence of many languages and cultures, and most people there don't like have access to like medical care or legal records or anything. I really wanted to go to Kenya, but as everybody else was just like crossing the border like boom, 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 they saw me because I was white and called me over and said I couldn't go, so. So I was just sitting there, gloomily looking over at Kenya, just sad. And then some kids came up to me like, white person, white person, white person, and just started like playing with me and interacting with me, and I was like, this isn't about me, and I just like, oh, how are you doing? And just whole demeanor changed, like, it's not about me, it's about them. And at one point, some kid asked me for my soda, and I gave it to them. I don't know why I did that. It probably is going to make them associate white people with giving them food. But I did it, so can't undo it. When I was there was one man, an old man, who was walking along really unsteadily. He looked like he was gonna fall over. And I didn't want to humiliate him, so I left him alone. And then while I was eating lunch, I heard a loud thump against the shed that we were eating next to. I put down my food, walked over, and I saw the old man had fallen. And as he was trying to catch himself, he had cut himself on metal, and you could see subcutaneous fat. So I just rushed up to him. I started grabbing his hand and holding it shut. Even though there was blood, I didn't care. To the Africans that might be watching the video of this, I couldn't say that I didn't care there, because that is completely stupid. But I didn't care about HIV. I didn't care about anything. I just needed to hold his hand shut so he would stop bleeding. Eventually somebody came up and said, "What you're doing is stupid," and I'm like, "You're right." And he stopped he wasn't bleeding as badly as I thought he was, so I went and I washed my hands and sanitized them multiple times, and then I came back with gloves, got him some cotton, and then we helped him over to the mosque. Looking back, I kind of wish I had made sure that that he had gotten medical care. I assumed he was coming back from the clinic or something, but the fact that he was so weak and he had collapsed, he probably was super dehydrated, and honestly, a cut where you could see subcutaneous fat, a whole bunch, and a decent amount of bleeding couldn't be stitched up. We didn't have those supplies, but we could have at least given him an IV. He was very weak. We gave him some watermelon. I feel like I should have given him my plate. And then I don't know how he is now. Seeing how weak he was, I think he might be dead. But even if I could have done something to help, I did what I could at that moment, so.
That's right. That's right.
After that, we were hanging out at home. We had a guest over because he was going to do something in Jinja later that day, and he lived a while away, so he needed a place to stay. That night, I was talking with our guest, and he was with us during the Gulu and Busia medical missions, and he just out of the blue told me, "Thank you for loving people." And I broke. That's something I've been wanting to hear my whole life, and then somebody just said it, and I felt nauseous. Yeah, and I ran out of the room I'm gonna barf, just a second. And I just locked myself in my room sobbing. And then when I came out, I just gave him the longest hug on planet Earth. Then he played a song for me on his guitar, it was a song that I was singing in the shower, Sweet Creature, and then he played Good Good Father, things like that, and I felt like somebody saw me for who I was and who I wanted to be, and I felt like I had actually become the person that I always knew I was.
It's awesome.
And that I think will stick with me for a while. The next day we went to church, and I have a long history with the church and religion, and I considered myself an atheist for a long while, for 4 years, and I have a lot of problems with like how people choose to express their faith. A lot of the time, people who have a high amount of faith press onto other people their beliefs about right and wrong in the world, and then it pushes them away, and that's exactly what happened to me. And that day, after that man told me thank you for loving people and spent time singing with me, that sermon was about love and how as Christians we need to love each other, and it was everything that I valued in life. And I just started bawling, and Rebecca, who I was staying with, came up to me like, hey, I want you to know that I'm here for you, and if you want to go up front, this was during they offered you can go up to the front if you want to give your life to Jesus, and if you go up to the front, I'll go with you. And for once, I didn't choose to do that. After so many years of performing, getting a baptism to strengthen my faith, being the perfect student, getting every single Bible verse perfect, and asking the best questions in Bible study and everything, after all of those years of doing that and then losing my faith, for once I chose not to go up and perform the whole charade. I chose to consider it in private. I didn't want to make a rash decision or something that I wouldn't actually follow through on in the future. So we talked on our own. She was frustrated because she wanted to be in that spiritual moment with me or whatever, but I think I hope she understood. And since then, I've been thinking about some things. I'm not a Christian and I'm not an atheist. I don't know what I am at this point. But seeing the love out there and the love that we were able to give people was life-changing. Then I had to go home. Rebecca and I spent extra time those last few days going to restaurants, just hanging out. And then I saw them in the airport, and then not again. I cried in the terminal, and I cried on my way on the plane. And then when I got on the plane, all the people around me were speaking French. If you have talked to me for 2 weeks, you will know that I am a big Frenchie. I've been studying French for 4 years, and I'm really annoying about it. And these people were speaking French, and it just gave me a whole bunch of comfort. I had a conversation with them. and they talked about what they were doing in Uganda and how they were going back to Marseille. And it kind of told me like, hey, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. Since then,
Oh.
Wow. Nice, Stacy.
Thanks. Thanks.
Look at that.
Oh, there's some good ones.
None of those are mine.
Very nice.
So, the summer's in full bloom. I love that. I've been going out every day just trying to reconnect with life outside of the internet, outside of videos. I get to hang out with these dorks every day. My dad shaved his beard to look like the Wolverine.
We went to see the movie. Sorry.
Yeah, we went to see the movie. And then my mom is the character.
I'm not. I have no personality.
And
None.
and after like feeling like I was missing Uganda for weeks on end, and getting sick, when I got better, my mom and I went out and did some volunteering things, and it kind of we had some good laughs together, and it kind of felt a little bit like being back in Uganda. Like, at least I can make a difference in this person's life. Now I'm going to be going to college all the way in Tulsa, and this whole past year has been like completely upending. Yeah, I found out that I'm going to college halfway across the country, and I got like a massive scholarship. I thought I was going to be in debt for the rest of my life. So that was huge. And now I have a home in another country. So it's like, so it's kind of weird. I saw something that was like, when you go on a mission trip to another country, if your country makes people into squares and that country makes people into circles, you come back home like a rounded square. Like, you're not a circle, you're not a square, you're something different, something in between. And I really feel like that's happened to me. And I've made friends that I didn't know were possible, and I found purpose and joy, and I felt things I'd never felt before. I felt like I was accepted and that I belonged, even though I was the only white person there. And it was just an amazing experience. So since then, I saw my Nana with ALS, and I've questioned what I think about God. As I said, I'm not a Christian or an atheist, but I do think I need to, like, give it a fair chance on my own. Like, first of all, work through the things that were keeping me from being a Christian, and then after that, I can actually like give it a trial. But I think seeing this, even if I don't want to be a Christian, what I see American Christianity as, I don't mind the idea of being a Christian as much. Before it was about hate and dogma, and there it was about love and making sure that everyone was seen. And I want to dedicate my life to that.
Love it.